Well, one of the most frequently requested topics for the show is always about business development for agencies. I know that all of you love talking about ways to grow your top line, even though there are a million other things that go into making your agency profitable, whether it's on the operations side or whether it's picking the right niche, whatever it might be. New business is always an exciting topic to explore, and I'm so excited to dig into it today with someone who's got perspective not only from the agency side, having grown and scaled and exited from an agency, but who also helps agencies put their best foot forward and connect with the right clients and brands for them so that they can do great work and achieve great results. And so Joe Koufman from Setup, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I think there's a lot of mystery around the work that you do in the agency world.
It's magic. It's magic, Sharon.
I'm sure it feels that way a lot of times to both to both parties who you're helping at any given time. And I think there's a lot of, well, first of all, let's take a step back. Setup helps pair brands, potential clients with the right agencies for them. And
Yes.
at the heart of it, I think that's a good description of what you do, making good matches between in whatever form that takes. I think a lot of agencies who I talk to think of this sort of matching process, whether they think of it as the old search consultant model that has evolved a lot over the years, or whether they are frequent flyers when it comes to RFP responses or RFO responses. There's a lot of sort of mystery around how does the process really work from the perspective of the client? How do you put your best foot forward? When should you just not? When is this just not the right move
Yeah.
for you to make and the right investment in time and money for you to make? And so I guess maybe let's talk about it from your perspective of what do you think are some of the most common misconceptions on the agency's part about how the RFP process goes or how the match process goes
Yeah.
in general
Yeah.
between client and agency?
So first, let me say, at Setup, we're marketing matchmakers and we connect brands and agencies together, like you mentioned.
Mhm.
And so we think a lot about that relationship between client and agency and how that works. In fact, we do an annual marketing relationship survey, understand that relationship between client and agency. And we published our fourth annual last year, and Ad Age picked it up, and Fast Company picked it up. And this year, we're about to publish the 2023 version of the marketing relationship survey. And so we've studied, what clients are looking for from agencies and what agencies, and there's a fun juxtaposition. It's kind of a he said, she said versus what clients think are
Right.
like, what are the reasons that clients fire agencies, for example? And what are the reasons that agencies think they get fired? And those are
Mhm.
not the same thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
for
so,
sure.
so there's definitely a conflict between what agencies think and what clients actually know. Um, but one of the things I'll say is something that I think most agencies underappreciate, particularly when it comes to going after new business. I believe that any agency client relationship is based on capability and chemistry. And I used to think that it was 50-50 capability and chemistry.
Mhm.
I now believe it's 35% capability and 65% chemistry.
Interesting. Why? Why do you
We
think that?
use and we use the dating analogy quite a bit in our business. We're marketing matchmakers. I happen to have personally introduced 3 couples that married as a result of my introduction. So it's not
Really?
just a day job; it's also a hobby. It's also for fun.
Okay.
They're not all still married, but not a marriage counselor. So that there's that. But at the end of the day, when all things are equal and you're evaluating 3, 4 different agencies, and all 3 or 4 agencies are highly capable, they have the experience, they have the client roster, they have the team that can do the work, then chemistry is really the only differentiator.
Mhm.
And so, from an agency standpoint, yes, you have to prove your capability, but at the end of the day, you also need to set yourself up to be ready to have good chemistry. So that requires, and also this depends at what point you are in a pitch process. If it's just the early phases where you've just been introduced to the client, that's one thing. If you're in the late phases where you're actually going into the room with your pitch team against three or four other agencies in a room, um, but what are the little things that you can do and the details that you can look after along the way to give yourself the best success? And to go back to the dating analogy, you put on your best outfit and you groom yourself well and you get yourself jazzed up for the date. And then you
Mhm.
show up to the restaurant to meet the other person. And while you can't create the chemistry, you can certainly set the stage.
Mhm. I think a lot of agencies don't really know. They're good at the chemistry part a lot of the time, but they don't know at what point to cut and run, right? I think there's a lot of, I'm guessing there's a lot of time and energy spent where they didn't do the advanced work to really be honest with themselves about whether there's some signal that should have told them this isn't the right opportunity for us at this time, or this is not a good match. What are some things? I mean, putting your first foot forward is one thing, but there are junctures, right? There's stages during this process, and probably, and you'll correct me if you have a different perception, but probably some agencies should remove themselves quickly from that process so that they avoid a lot of expense and
Yeah.
bandwidth, because this is expensive for independent
Yeah.
agencies to do, right?
Yeah. Uh, well, funny, the hilarious part about this, Sharon, is that agencies are sometimes great about talking about how they're focused on a specific niche.
Hmm.
Like we work with an agency that focuses on health, wealth, and happiness. So they'll work with healthcare brands, they'll work with banks and financial institutions, and they'll work with brands that are bringing joy in some way to, some constituents world, some customers, clients world. They hold fast to those guide rails until something comes along that's outside of that's a shiny object, and then they throw that out the window and then go after that one too.
Yeah.
Um, and so I do think that agencies need to be clear about before they get to the opportunity. They need to be clear about what is an ideal client profile, ICP, and what's not. And
Mhm.
I think back to my days running marketing and business development for a 250 person agency for 6 years. And I had four criteria to determine whether I would go after a piece of new business or not. The
Okay.
first criteria was, is it big enough revenue wise and profitable for the agency? And that was a moving target over the years. When I first
Right.
started at the agency, it was $100,000 in profitable. When we finally sold to Publicis Group in 2014, 2013, if I didn't see a path to $1 million in revenue in year one, then they weren't a fit. I
Mhm.
remember having a conversation with Smoothie King, which was a great potential client, and their budget was $600,000 to do some digital work. And I remember, as much as it crushed me, to say, "I'm sorry, Smoothie King, but you're too small. We can't work with you."
Mhm.
So deal size was the first criteria. How big is the opportunity? The second criteria was, do we want their logo on our NASCAR slide? I grew up in North Carolina in the Southeast, and you know, on the side of a NASCAR, you see all the logos for all the sponsors. So do we want Nike or Starbucks or, Delta Airlines on our NASCAR slide? Yes. Even if it's a small project, I might be willing to flex on that first criteria to get that logo, because that logo will help us win additional business.
Right.
The third criteria was, does it teach us a new skill or something that we need as an agency to learn and grow? And it is very hard to get a new client to let you learn on their dime. usually an existing client will let you learn on their dime because there's trust and relationship already built. But sometimes it's we've done something kind of like this and we want to do it for you in a different way. And that would be, even if it doesn't meet the first two criteria, I might be willing to take on that piece of business because it allows us. I'll never forget my old agency worked with a giant hotel chain, and they wanted us to build a Facebook app back when Facebook apps were a thing. And
Hmm.
we were like, great, that we learned how to build a Facebook app because of this client relationship. Um, the fourth criteria is just, are there hungry mouths to feed? So, for example, at my old agency, we had a pretty large user experience practice with UX, a team of folks that were doing user experience. And we had an opportunity with a pretty nice brand that needed a bunch of user experience. And it just so happened that the time the opportunity came along was right around the time that the UX team rolled off of a really large project. And so that fed some hungry mouths. Even if it weren't a great brand, we would have maybe taken on that project just to feed those hungry mouths. But I, you know, there are other criteria that agencies use based on industry, based on discipline of expertise, based on team, based on capacity, other factors to determine whether should I go after this piece of business or not. It also depends on what stage the agency is in its overall growth, because some agent, if you're hungry, hungry, hungry and need to grow at all costs, you'd be more willing to take on a more diverse group of potential clients than if
Right,
you're laser focused on a specific niche.
right. I love this rubric. I mean, because this is something that any agency at any stage of scaling can apply. So, what's the revenue opportunity? Is it a brand we would be proud to say we worked with? And um, do we have excess capacity that we need mouths to feed? I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And I forgot the
Does
fourth
it
one.
teach us does it teach us something new that
Does
we
it
need
teach
to
us
learn?
something new? Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I think that
Like
that's
like like hey,
scalable.
we've got a client, like, hey, we've got a client that we're doing content creation for, or we're doing web design for them. And now we've launched the new website, and now they want us to drive traffic to that new website. And so this is an opportunity for us to get into paid digital media when we've never done paid digital media. Maybe we can hire that contractor that was only working 10 hours a week for us as a full-time employee and launch our paid media practice,
Right.
so hey, that got us into a new area of growth because there was a client need, and we wouldn't have pursued that otherwise, but now we have paid media as part of our portfolio.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I love it. Um, how have you seen client expectations evolve in this process in the 10 years you've been doing this
Yeah.
matchmaking? What are some
Couple
things you've seen that have changed in how the
yeah,
process runs or what clients are looking for?
yeah, couple things. First, there are fewer agency of record jump balls up for grabs.
Hmm.
Clients aren't willing to just take their entire business and put it up for review and toss it out for anybody, or any agency. Uh, Typically, what clients are doing now more than they used to is assigning a project for not just an RFP, but just assigning a project to be done by an agency where if they deliver well on that project, then they'll heap more work on them.
Hmm.
And I think it's smart for clients to do that because it's sort of a little bit of a try it before you buy it thing, where before you put all your eggs in the basket of an agency, you're giving them a chance to show their value and their worth and their expertise. So I've seen that shift. I mean, there were more agency of record jump balls. I think there's less demand overall for the search consultants to do a big, massive search than there was 10 years ago when I started doing this
Hmm.
particular part of my career. Um, Also, I'll say that as much as agencies despise responding to RFPs, particularly very difficult, onerous RFPs,
Right.
Clients hate running them. And we've heard more and more over the years that they're looking for alternative ways to find the right agency and to select the right agency. We created a series of content for clients to help them think through these things. We have a complete guide to finding a marketing agency that we send to new marketing roles. So congrats on your new gig as VP of marketing at blank company. The
Hmm.
first thing you're going to do is evaluate your team, who's good at what and who's bad at what, and where are their gaps. And the second thing you're going to do is evaluate your agencies, who's good at what and who's bad at what, and where are their gaps.
Right.
And that's why a lot of agency searches and changes happen around job changes, because I'm the new person coming in as VP of marketing now. And do I like the do I think that the agency that my predecessor selected is the best possible agency for us? In some cases, I'm willing to give them a shot, but in some cases, it's time to make a change. And we want to be there when they're thinking about that and making that decision, because we can help them connect with potential agencies that could solve those problems. But uh, I'm seeing less formal RFP and more, let's just get to know these agencies and understand them and then decide if one of them is a good fit. Going back to our conversation about chemistry versus capability versus chemistry, I'm by the time I've chosen a handful of agencies to talk to, I'm only talking to capable agencies.
Right.
And if that's the case, then chemistry is the differentiator. And if chemistry is the differentiator, then as an agency, what can you do to build chemistry? And you made a comment, Sharon, that, oh, I think agencies are pretty good at the chemistry. I don't. I think they're terrible at the chemistry.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
let's talk
they're
about that.
terrible.
Yeah. Why? And what are some examples of how they fall short of the mark and how they can
Yeah.
be doing better?
So uh, details matter a lot. Every detail matters. And how, as a client, are you going to make your decision? How are you going to choose which agency is the best for you? We've been fortunate enough to be able to sit with clients and help them make the decision to hire this agency or the other. And I think that agencies don't have any clue how they make their decisions. Um, we build scorecards for both for clients. We have some that they can just download a standard scorecard that we've built. And then we also, if we're running a search for a client, then we'll build a custom scorecard for them. And on those scorecards, there's a bunch of different criteria. Some of them are actual, tangible, like, you know, do they have relevant case studies that look with clients that look like me? Do they have the right team to be able to do the data analysis we need, or whatever the thing is? Do they have the right developers on staff to do that web design project or whatever? But then there's a bunch of intangibles on there that says, like, do I think they're going to mesh well with my team? Do I believe in the larger mission of the agency? Do they have values that align with my company's values? I once had an agency, I'm sorry, a client select an agency, and one of the things that they used to decide on the agency that they chose, they said, this is a multi-generational family business, a big one, mind you, big furniture company, multi-generational family business. And they chose an agency that was a multi-generational family business.
Interesting.
So all four agencies that were in the pitch were great. I
Hmm.
watched all four pitches. They were fantastic.
Hmm.
They all had some chemistry, right?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, the client was looking for alignment and understanding of their challenges and concerns. I'd say one major mistake that agencies make all the time is talking about themselves. At the end
Okay.
of the day, if you were fortunate enough to get into the room with the client, whether that room is just a conversation on a video call or a phone call or an actual pitch, formal pitch, begin the conversation talking about the client's problems. Don't begin the 17 slides about us. Here's our client slide, and here's how many offices we have, and here's how many employees we have, and here's our partnerships and our disciplines, and here's you don't need that. You're in the room. You're in the room. You're
Mhm.
already past that. Start the conversation with, we heard you that this is your problem that you're trying to solve. Here's how we propose to solve your problem. We have the
Mhm.
team and the resources to do it. We have the experience to do it. Anytime you hire a new employee, it's a gamble. You're gambling that this person can do the things that they say they can do. And their resume is a list of things that they've done that help mitigate your risk just a little bit. And it's the same thing when you're hiring an agency. Your list of clients and your number of offices and your number of employees and all of that stuff are table stakes that get you, mitigates my risk a little, because a new client wants the agency to do what they did for somebody else, but do it for me. An existing client, as we mentioned before, is willing to let you do something new. But at the end of the day, when a client is selecting a new agency, they want to understand that you've done this before for somebody else, maybe in a little different way.
Right.
But what I didn't say was, what are the things that the agency can do to increase their chances of having good chemistry?
Yeah, I think everybody's
And
gonna be taking notes about this part. Yeah.
yeah, and the reality is, it's the little things. I'll give you an example. We were pitched back. I can talk about my former agency because it doesn't even exist anymore. It's long gone. We went out and we were pitching AMC Theaters, which is based in Kansas City, Missouri, to become their um, CRM and marketing automation and email agency of record, which is a huge program. They have the AMC Stubs program, which is their loyalty program, and we were going to run that program and run all the email marketing. We found out that the VP of marketing there, who's no longer there, uh, was a fan of Ducati motorcycles. He goes on a motorcycle trip with his friends once a year to ride Ducati motorcycles.
Mhm.
When we were choosing the account leader to go out to pitch AMC Theaters, we realized that one of our account leaders is also a Ducati motorcycle enthusiast.
Mhm.
And you can bet that we made sure that we actually went a day early and had coffee. The guy had coffee with the client, and they talked all about motorcycles. It's not
That's
um it's not going to, he wasn't the only decision maker.
Mhm.
And certainly there was a much broader decision than just, you know, based on I like this guy. But certainly it was an example of a little thing that we could do to lay some groundwork to build chemistry on a personal level with this person. And I'm not saying you always need to find that exact, interest or common thread, but man, it doesn't hurt,
No,
right?
and it sounds like building that research time into your process as an agency to factor in um as much as what goes into the actual proposal is an investment that you need to earmark for the agency so that you can figure out how to show up putting your best foot forward from a chemistry perspective, right?
Yep.
Knowing the people you're going to be talking to as people as well as you can before you walk into that meeting and
Yep.
what their roles are with the company, how long they've been there. You know, I think that these are just things I think that it's easy to miss when you're focused on sort of the big show. And as you pointed out, the big show usually includes a lot of fluff in there that clients don't want to hear about anyway, because you're already in the room.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like the difference between beginning the conversation with, Hi, Sharon. My name is Joe Koufman, and beginning the conversation with, tell me about such and such an agency that you worked with a couple of years ago. I mean, like we're already beginning the you're already beginning the marathon race at mile 5 instead of beginning the marathon race at mile 0, at the
Yeah, yeah,
starting
yeah.
line. And I think that uh, there's one factor or variable that is the single most important determinant of whether an agency is going to win the client's business. Do you know what it is?
No, I want you to tell me. I don't know.
Desire.
On the
Desire.
agency, really?
Showing, demonstrating, the agency demonstrating to the client that they really want this business is the single most important variable, and nothing else is close. So, how do you demonstrate to the client that you really want their business? I'll give you one more example from my past.
Hmm.
We were pitching, I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. We
Hmm.
were pitching Honey Baked Ham, which is a great, franchise franchised restaurants and
Yep.
also huge e-commerce business, and used to be mail order business and now huge e-commerce business. People order their hams and turkeys for the holidays.
Right.
And we knew that the pitch was down to a final two agencies, and one agency was based in Colorado, and we were based here in Atlanta, where Honey Baked Ham is headquartered. And we wanted to demonstrate to them, number one, how badly we wanted the business. Number two, what an advantage it was that we were close proximity wise.
Right.
And so we loaded a bus full of people from the agency, drove to their headquarters with like a whole cheering squad outside of their headquarters to show them how important this was to us, and to show them we're right up the street from you. And that's a value add and a differentiator. And lo and behold, we won the business.
Hmm.
Um, we were pitching Newell Brands, which one of their products is Calphalon. One of their lines is Calphalon cookware, and we understood that one of the insights that they had was that pots and pans to a foodie are like a canvas to an artist or an instrument to a musician. It's about
Right.
creativity in the kitchen. And we wanted to show this client that we really understood not just their business, but their consumer. And so we put together a video talking about our idea and showing them not the output of the campaign, not the output of the creative idea, but to show them we understood, we get you. And it was one of those glorious moments where we showed the video, and I think I saw a little bit of a tear roll down the eye of the head of marketing for Calphalon when we showed the video, because it moved her. And we weren't trying to elicit a tear, but we were trying to show them that we understood.
Right.
And we wanted to show them that we really cared and we really wanted it. And so I think that's maybe one of the best ways you can build chemistry, is to demonstrate that you understand the client's needs and that you really want to help them solve it. And it's important to you. You will always beat every other agency if you can show them you really want it.
Well, I mean, it makes total sense, when you look at the tenure of the CMO who's making these choices and how it's shrinking, shrinking, shrinking over time. They need that empathy, and that hit the ground running fast and hard sort of approach, from whoever they're going to select as their partners, or and that's probably the barometer they're going to use to evaluate their incumbent agency too, right? Because
Yeah.
they're going to look at everything fresh. So I love it. And again, very scalable. There's plenty of ways to show
Yep.
empathy, understanding, and caring about a prospective client, no matter what size budget you have to do that, or there's just a myriad of ways. I mean, you're in the creativity business as an agency. You can
Yeah.
do this. You can figure out a way to show that you care before you have the
I'll
business
give you,
conversation.
sorry to interrupt you. I'll give you one other quick example. We worked with an agency that was pitching a large symphony orchestra, and I think I forget what the work was, but they did kind of a informal straw poll. I think they just surveyed a bunch of people in the agency about like how how often have you been to the symphony? Why would you go to the symphony? What would compel you to go when you wouldn't go otherwise, or compel you to be interested in it if you've never been interested in it before? And I mean, it wasn't anything crazy formal. It was literally, just surveying, I don't know, 20 people or something within the agency. And I mean to tell you that that survey was on like slide 70 of their deck. I was like, how about you just put the survey at the very beginning of your
Yeah.
deck, literally the
Yeah.
very beginning, and say, look, we're going to tell you all the ways we can help you and how we can do the work. But before we even get there, we really just wanted to ask our team what they felt about the symphony. We wanted to understand what, boy, that shows that they care. That shows that they
Right.
are thinking about the client's problems, and lead with that. Why
Right.
bury that? I mean, to me, that was such an easy, we were doing consulting to help them think through how to pitch better in the future. And boy, when we got that deck, I was like, so slide 74 has this little survey that you did. That's the most important thing in the entire deck. Put it at the
Right.
beginning. Put
Right.
put your about us, put your entire about us section in the appendix. It's there if you need it. If they want to know how many offices you have, you got a slide for it. But don't lead with that.
Yeah. I love it. Well, and yeah, leading with that insight and that empathy, again, makes so much sense. And again, super scalable for any agencies.
There's a book that I love called The Challenger Sale by Adamson and Dixon. And the Challenger Sale, the concept is bring an insight to a customer or client that's not obvious to them, educate them about that insight. And by not obvious, I mean you can't find it on the internet. It's something that you know because of your experience or because of
Right.
your research or something. Educate them about that insight. Get the client to nod their heads that that insight exists, that challenge, that problem exists within their organization. Once they've acknowledged that that insight or challenge exists within an organization, then you can explain why you're uniquely qualified to solve that exact problem for them.
Mhm.
Most people hiring a salesperson think they want to hire a relationship builder, or they think they want to hire somebody that has a Rolodex. The reality is that they studied the company that put out this book was a big consultancy, contends that there are 5 archetypes of salespeople, and the relationship builder is looking for harmony in the relationship.
Mhm.
A challenger is actually looking for tension in the relationship. But the crazy thing is that there's a byproduct of being a challenger. The byproduct is relationship.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I think about my whole career, I've been a challenger. I ask hard questions, I push, I needle, and it's uncomfortable sometimes for the client, and it's uncomfortable sometimes for me.
Yeah.
I like it that way. But guess what? Many of those people that were my clients over the years have become some of my best friends, and we've maintained relationship over time because I think they appreciate being challenged, being pushed more than if you came in and just tried to be their friend.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you lead with that kind of bravery, you're setting yourself up for a much more successful relationship. If you're afraid to do that up front, it's a lot harder to shoehorn it in later, in the relationship, and the work's probably not going to be as good.
Well, you're going to eventually become an order taker. The opposite of a challenger is an order taker,
Yeah,
and
which is a
that's
syndrome that a
fine.
lot of agencies fall victim to, right?
Well, and it's fine in certain cases, right? I mean, if they need XYZ and you're willing to provide XYZ and that's it, fine. But I think the value of being a challenger is that you're going to really grow a relationship over time because you're going to push them towards trying new things and being braver and bolder with creative and doing different things that will ultimately grow their business, hopefully, and also grow your agency.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, this has been a terrific tour through the process and the mindset you need to have to go through it as an agency from the perspective of someone like you who's seen it from both sides and who continues to see it from both sides. And so I really enjoyed the conversation, learned a lot, love having pushback on my perceptions as well. And I think that agency leaders are going to get a lot of actionable advice out of our conversation. And so I know you got a lot of resources at the setup site for agencies. And so why don't we tell folks how they can
Sure.
get there and find out about how you help them, the new mastermind that you're introducing next year
Yeah.
for them, et cetera.
So setup.us is our website. Setup.com would be very, very expensive to buy, but setup.us is great. And you'll find most of the content on setup.us is geared towards how we help the client find the right agency. But in the footer, there's a for agencies section that you can see where there's our services for agencies. We help agencies with business development training and marketing diagnostic and agency assessment. And then also for the right kinds of agencies and size of agencies, we have a sustainable pipeline where we actually help them go out and find opportunity on an ongoing basis.
Right.
But thank you for the plug. We're in 2024, we're going to be launching a series of mastermind groups for agency owners. And it's still a work in progress. We're still tweaking the details. But if you go to agencymastermind.us, it'll direct you to a page that has some details about that. So we're excited about that because there are a lot of agencies that want to work with us that aren't really quite a good fit, and we've often turned them away. And this agency mastermind.us, opportunity is one where we're building some peer groups where agency owners can work with each other and help each other grow with our nodding, our prodding, our assistance, our guidance over time.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're excited about that as a 2024 initiative, and it'll be a nice extension to our business because we work with a lot of amazing agencies, and we would love to work with more.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, I have really had my eyes opened on a few points, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And so, Joe Koufman, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience with us and sharing a little bit about what Setup does. And I know we're going to help a lot of agency owners in the process of listening to this conversation. So thanks for being with us today. And
Thanks so much,
thanks.
Sharon. It was such a joy to be
Yeah,
here with you.
it was fun. It was a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it. All right, everybody. Thank you for being with us. We will see you on the next episode. And until then, stay well.